Let's freaking go. I don't care about how crappy any of the rest of that game was. There are so many issues there in that game. But Pittsburgh won 2019, beat Baltimore at Heinz Field. It's got to be electric. It's December. It's a win over the Ravens at home. Came down to a 2-point conversion and onside kick by Baltimore. Didn't get the 2-point conversion because TJ Watt was right in front of Lamar Jackson, made him have a bad throw. And of course, didn't get the onside kick. Although it was close. It was dangerously close in the onside kick, but didn't happen. Pittsburgh, the hopes again to 8-1, keeping that, not having another losing season. That is still alive because of this game. I mean, Pittsburgh, and I said it after the tie to Detroit, I said after the loss to the Chargers, I didn't really know where the next win was going to be for Pittsburgh. Guess it's today. That is electric. That's amazing. I wish I was in the stands for that one. That must have been incredible, the energy in that stadium. I mean, it's just, like I said, so much was going wrong in this game, and so much just went right in the final 5 or 6 minutes of it. Everything was just perfect. Chef's kiss. It was fantastic. You could not possibly have wanted or asked for a better ending that game from just being absolutely nerve-wracking for a Steelers fan. It was possibly going to kill me if we had lost that game. It was just insane, though. I mean, going in, I am so glad Harbaugh went for 2. Realistically, they probably would have won in overtime had they just kicked the field goal, because Pittsburgh has not done really that good in overtime or in those late situations usually, where you have to have that extended period of play. Just go back to the Detroit game. But you know what? It was the right move by Harbaugh and the wrong move. I don't think anyone, including the players themselves, wanted to go to overtime. So it's kind of the right move to go for 2 there. At the same time, they probably would have had a better shot at winning had they just let it play out. I was not expecting a win today. I really was not. So I'm just super happy. This is way more out today than I could have ever expected. Let's just look at the game. I got some game notes. I don't really want to bring too many of them up. Let's just look at the numbers for now. Ben, 238 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 really good passes that were not caught. The one to Ray McLeod, which is maybe a little bit too far in front of him, but Ray kind of let it hit the ground. And the one to Diontae Johnson that should have been a touchdown that he just dropped. He made up for it, though. Diontae Johnson more than made up for it this game. 8 receptions, 105 yards, 2 touchdowns. Just incredible today. Really, really, really stepping into that wide receiver 1 role. It's just insane what he's been able to do this year. The growth from last year to this season has been phenomenal, because I was really not sold on him as a wide receiver 1 after last year. I really thought he was just going to be a high-caliber wide receiver 2 at his peak. He's proven me wrong. He can definitely be a wide receiver 1 based on what we've done so far with him this year. And think about what's going to happen when you have a quarterback who's going to be more capable of throwing the ball downfield more often in the future. I mean, right now, Ben, as I said, had a couple good downfield throws today, but that's not usually happening at this point. He's had some off throws downfield in the past couple weeks. He's struggled to get downfield consistently. Today looked pretty good, though, for the most part. There were some really good throws in there. Chase Claypool had a 40-yard reception. I would like to see him get more involved in the offense, frankly. I think he needs to get more involved, especially. And again, I know the vertical passing game is kind of a little bit thrown off sometimes by Ben's arm, but I think Claypool needs to be more involved in the offense. Pat Freiermuth, only 3 receptions for 26 yards, but I felt like all of them were major receptions. All of them came at timely points in the game that really helped him out. Zach Gentry caught a few passes, and every time he caught one, they started the chance for Freiermuth in the stadium, thinking just because he's a white tight end that he's Pat Freiermuth. But you know what? You can't really be mad. Can't be mad about that if you're making big plays when it matters most. TJ Watt, my God. So TJ Watt getting in on Lamar Jackson, forcing that bad throw to Mark Andrews on a 2-point conversion. 6 tackles today, 3.5 sacks, 3 tackles for loss. He had that forced fumble. Pittsburgh declined it. They might want to take the penalty in hindsight. On the final Ravens drive, TJ Watt comes in, gets a strip sack, and there was a holding call. Pittsburgh ends up turning down the holding call and just letting it play out. Not sure that was the right move, because it would have run 10 seconds off the clock, because it would have been a penalty under 2 minutes left. But you know what? We'll let it play. We'll let it play out. TJ Watt was just on gut. I mean, he was incredible today. Absolutely insane. Chris Wormley had a good game too. 2.5 sacks on his part. Cameron Hayward had a sack. The defensive pressure, which has not been there at all. Just look at the Bengals games. They barely got pressure on Joe Burrow in either of the Bengals games. Today, it was insane. It was every single drop back, there was a Steeler in Lamar Jackson's lap. And granted, of course, he's so mobile he can run away. He got away from a lot of those. But if it had been anyone else other than Lamar Jackson, we would have had like 10 or 11 sacks today. It would have been insane. Minkah Fitzpatrick gets an interception today. He had some bad plays too. There was a pass interference call on him, I believe. He had some plays where he was not really in the right spot for coverage, where he gave chunk plays in the middle of the field. But overall, a solid day for Minkah Fitzpatrick. We'll say he broke even, which is good for him this year because he's been having some difficult games. But I think now it's 2 interceptions for him in the past 2 or 3 games in a row. He's gotten both of his interceptions this year. I'm going to check right now, actually, because I know one was against Cincinnati. So he's gotten interceptions in back-to-back weeks, as not having any interceptions at any other point during the season. So maybe he's starting to finally heat up. Finally starting to show up a little bit late in the season at this point, but better late than never. So hopefully he's starting to make more of an impact, get more of a consistent role in this defense, because he really was not playing at the star level we're used to for the first, I don't know how many games of the season you want to say, first 10 games of the year. Now finally at that level, and hopefully he'll remain at that point consistently moving forward. Let's just look at some of the team stats right now. Whew. I'll be honest, I was actually sweating down the stretch. I don't usually get too involved in these games, although Pittsburgh kind of forces you to because they draw it out into these late game scenarios. So you get really emotionally involved in these games. And they've done it so much this year. It's just a 1-score game late and just plays out so freakishly. Think about Seattle, Chicago, even Cleveland a little bit, although I felt confident we would win because Cleveland was just playing so poorly in that game. Detroit, all these games that are coming down to the wire or late in the game. Pittsburgh's just done that every game this year. Man, it's just insane. It's not good for my heart. I'm not gonna lie. It's stressful as hell. Overall, total yards in the game for both offenses, 326 for Baltimore, 321 for Pittsburgh. So we were right there with him. The time of possession was so different. The time of possession, 36 minutes and 30 seconds for Baltimore. Just 23 minutes and 30 seconds for Pittsburgh. And I think that is something that has to improve because you look at past games, Pittsburgh's defense gets worn out by the second half. And a lot of times that happens, especially in the fourth quarter or going to the fourth quarter. I think a lot of times that happens because Pittsburgh's offense does not possess the ball for long drives. So you don't have the time of possession being even. Pittsburgh's defense has to be on the field so often. That kind of wears on them. So hopefully that's something that can correct itself just naturally over time. We can kind of fix that even though we're already halfway through the season or over halfway through the season at this point. Rushing-wise, I thought our running game was actually pretty solid today, especially down the stretch. On that final offensive drive for us, I thought it was really good. I mean, Benny Snell got involved. Najee Harris on some really good runs. I thought they were carrying guys, clearly. The run blocking was actually pretty good down the stretch. Najee Harris, 21 carries for 71 yards. That's pretty good against the Baltimore defense, by the way. I think they said Baltimore only allowed one other player to have 50 or more rushing yards in a game this season. I'm not sure if that's true. I thought that's what it said on Red Zone, but if that's true, that's phenomenal. I mean, that's great to have that come out. And Benny Snell, like I said, getting involved. Only 2 carries in the game, but big carries late in the game. I was overall very impressed with how composed Pittsburgh's offense was down the stretch, which is something that I have not said enough this year because Ben's done a pretty good job of still being that guy in clutch time. Obviously, we came down to us having to get the 2-point conversion because Boswell inexplicably missed a potentially game-tying field goal or a game-tying extra point early on. It was just a bad miss. It wasn't even a tip, just a terrible miss, something that usually doesn't happen with him. But then he was automatic from field goals the rest of the game, so it doesn't really matter to me. He was the same clutch kicker he usually is, just with the exception of that one miss. And really, there were some great kickers in this game today. Him and Boswell and Justin Tucker are arguably 2 of the best kickers in the NFL, if not the 2 best at this point. Man, I was shaking during that the final 2 drives, the one for Pittsburgh, one for Baltimore. I was so happy with the way it turned out. But our defense gets burned so much in these late game situations, though. That is the one thing I will complain about. The defense gives up yards way, way too easily. Every late game situation. The last drive for the opposing team, they just march right down the field every time. And I do it in like under a minute every time. I think the defense really has to go back and look at that. And the defensive coordinator needs to consider finding a new game plan for late game situations because there's no way you can allow it to happen consistently like they have this year. You know what? We'll worry about that later. It's going to be a victory Monday for us tomorrow. Tonight is a victory Sunday. I'll get to relax the rest of the night, watch Sunday Night Football, watch Monday Night Football tomorrow. There are going to be some great games. Kansas City, Denver tonight. New England versus Buffalo tomorrow. just relax, enjoy it, and know Pittsburgh has won a football game this week. That's going to be all from me, guys. I'm going to log off for the night. Probably won't talk to you tomorrow, but hopefully see you then.